First of all, I'd like to thank the Scouts of Saudi Arabia for inviting and organizing this conference. I think it's of a great importance that we look together at the protection of the environment. And when I started to do my research for this presentation here, I looked at what is environment and what are associations around the world doing. And I came to the conclusion that we need to look a little bit wider on the theme of environment protection. And I think it is time that we start looking at climate change and what is happening in the climate and what effect that has. And in order to do so, could ask ourselves the question, so is climate change then the same as taking care of the environment? And I'll take you back in a little bit of history, just to put it into perspective. Between the 15th and 18th century, so it's a couple of hundred years ago, there was a period where globally the temperatures in the world decreased more or less about 1 degree Celsius compared to the moderate temperatures in the later centuries, 20th century. And there is a very interesting book written by Mr. Parker. He called this book Global Crisis, War, Climate Change and Catastrophe. And he analyzed what happened with the world. And the biggest effect was, in those 3 centuries, famine of the population around the world. People did not have any food. And what do people do when they don't have any food? They start to uprise, they start to fight, there are rebellions, people want to get food. There are armies that take the food from the population. There's a lot of war that came in those 3 areas. In England, for example, lived its biggest internal upheaval in its entire history. We had Europe convulsed in a 30-year war. We had China in numerous revolutions following the overthrowing of the Ming dynasty. We had rebellions in the Ottoman Turkey, in the Mongol India, and in the Russian and Spanish empires. So from England to China, people were trying to find explanations, and they had visions of apocalypse. So the conclusion of that is that in that 17th century, there were more wars around the world than in any other time. So what happened to the world population? There was a reduction in that time. 30% of the world population reduced. And it's not to say that 1 degree of temperature going down around the globe leads to 30% of a diminution of the population, but it is a warning signal if you look back at history. So the lessons learned are that the sensitivity of human society to climatic factors is enormously important. Let's look what is happening. I think I want to congratulate the Saudi government also on having developed the Saudi 2030 vision, because it takes care of moving the society in Saudi Arabia away from being dependent on fossil fuel, which is a very good vision. And what we have seen in this same historical analysis is that in countries that have been producing or using fossil fuel, there is now, at this time, and we know it when we read the newspapers and watch the television, there is a psychological and political resistance against climate change. Are we really acknowledging it? We all know that there are political leaders around the world who say climate change doesn't exist. Well, it does. So we have to look at it. So where does that leave us with scouting? The young generation has to take care about the change from fossil fuels to renewable energies and take responsibility. The younger generation is where scouting comes in. So what is our environment? I mentioned in the beginning, there are various explanations of the word environment. The English Oxford Dictionary describes it as a natural world affected by human activity, not the other way around. So natural world affected by human activity. So it is the surroundings and conditions in which we live and plants operate and animals live that set the environment. So from that, we can say, okay, what are we protecting? Are we protecting a social environment, an economic one, a political one, the built environment, mental environment, physical or digital environments? There's a wide explanation, a wide definition of the word environment. And it goes beyond, and this is one of the things I came across from doing the research, is it goes beyond picking up the litter that you find in the streets that other people left. It goes beyond that. It goes further than cleaning up what other people's left. So when we talk about education, WOSM, of course, the World Organization of the Scout Movement, is already doing a lot. There is a World Scout Environment Program, there is a Scout Center of Excellence work, and there are partnerships around the world. And given the time, I will go quickly. The World Scout Environment Program is based on 3 pillars: nature, connection, and engagement. And it's this last thing that I think is very important, to ensure that Scouts engage with climate change and protection of the environment. I have put on this slide a few examples that in Belgium, there's a new educational program for Scouting, which takes this engagement, this political engagement of changing the society as the key to the educational programs. Unite for Climate is an online community, Seal the Deal, another campaign online, and there's many examples here that you see on the slide that I will not go into details. Some of them have been mentioned by other speakers this morning. So the World Scout Center in Kandersteg hosts about 15,000 young people each year. There's an offer of about 50 activities for guests. There's environmental education, and there is, of course, the Scout Centers of Excellence for Nature and Environment, the SCENES network that we apply. So what has become central in the program that Kandersteg delivers is this political engagement, making sure that people speak out, that they find a voice to express that something has to happen, and that they are part of it, but certainly also others are part of it. So you see some examples on the slides, but I keep an eye on the timing. The Eco Shop, for example, the online shop only has ecological, environmentally friendly products that you can obtain there, which is a choice you have to make. I'll go a little bit quicker to make sure that we stay within the time. So my message here today is that I think that Scouting and the program that we offer in terms of environment protection needs to be based on a proactive engagement. So we must make sure that we discuss, that we talk. UNESCO finds that same conclusion. It says that we have to ensure that young people can feed into the decision making at local, national, and international levels, that they can have their role and their voice. Baden-Powell himself said that nature study is the key activity for scouting and guiding. So we have one lesson to learn, is that we have to speak up. We have to teach our children to speak. Scouts, I say, should be politically active, and I don't mean party political active, but politically active, engaging in society, reach out each and every day rather than protect. One concluding comment, if I may. If you look in societies in Europe these days, we see, and I mean these days, the last couple of weeks, we see an enormous development of young people who strike. They don't go to school, they don't go to university, they go to the streets, tens of thousands of them, hundreds of thousands, and they protest against their governments, and they say the governments have to do more than what they do. We want to have a safe future. That is where Scouting's role is, and that's where we have to focus the education that we provide to our young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.